Notes to the Sun is only intended for a mature audience and contains strong language which may be considered offensive by some viewers.
Welcome back to Notes to the Sun, everyone. I'm your host, KGB, and we're going to do things a little different this week. Rather than provide you with an episode, I thought that it would be interesting to kind of just share the outcomes of our launch last week and my response to those outcomes, because it was actually really interesting enough to actually share with each of you this week. So let me start before we even jump into that. Let me start by saying thank you for each and every one of you for supporting our podcast. The outpouring of love and support was just tremendous, almost to the point where it was overwhelming. Any of you who know me, you know that while speaking comes to me sometimes with ease, it's something I'm comfortable with doing. Receiving any compliments as a result of speaking is something I am extremely uncomfortable with. So while I was receiving nothing but love from each and every one of you, my community, my friends, and my family, while I was receiving all of those things, I started to feel more and more kind of embarrassed and not really worthy of that kind of praise. It's something that I've been battling with my entire life, but I felt it really kind of creeping up on me on Friday. So what I decided to do is I decided that I was going to tune out and turn off technology. I was going to go on a technological blackout. So I went outside, took with me a cigar and some scotch, and decided that I was just going to relax and try to absorb the moment. Now, this is something that I've been trying to practice over the years, is actually being present. I'll give you guys an example of what that means. When my middle child, Khalil, he had been playing football since he was 5 years of age. And when he was 10 years old, he said, not only do I want to continue to play football, Dad, but I actually want to be able to play in the NFL. Well, I made him a deal. I said, if you can at least maintain 3.0 GPA or higher throughout your entire academic career up until the 12th grade, I can promise you that I can get you a full ride playing football into college. Now, I can't promise you the NFL, too many variables, too many things that are involved in getting someone into the NFL outside of one's control, but I can at least control whether or not you actually get into college. So when Khalil turned 17 years of age and he had been practicing playing football his entire life and no offers had come in, I was panicking. I was like, oh my goodness, I made this boy a promise and, we're going to fall short of that promise. But we did everything. We fought hard. He was getting up every single morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and he would practice until 6. He would go home and change, go to school at 8. From 8, he would go to school all the way until it ended, and afterwards he'd go to weight training. After weight training, he would go to practice. After practice, he would go to speed and conditioning, speed training, and then after that, he would do his homework. He literally did this for 4 years. I mean, just dedicated his life to the sport of football. He eventually got his first scholarship, his first offer to play football. And I remember the day. And the reason why I remember the day is because I remember telling Khalil in that moment, you've worked hard to get to this moment. What I need you to do is I need you to stop and I need you to hear the sounds. I need you to stop and I need you to see the sights. And I need you to preserve this moment in your brain right now. The smells, the sights, the sounds, all of it. Remember this feeling, log it. And here's the reason why, because it is fleeting, because that's what happened when one achieves their goals. The very next day, they're on to the next one. And that's sure as heck, that's exactly what happened. Once Khalil received his first offer, he started to become focused on getting his second offer, and then his third offer, and then his fourth offer. And so before long, he got a full ride. He decided to play football in college. And that moment, he had forgotten. He had forgotten all of the sacrifices that he had made to get to that stage in his life. And I told him, hey, man, it's going to happen because that is life. If you don't preserve the moment that you achieve your goals, it will be lost under the weight of your future goals. And so, what I decided to do last Friday is I decided to put my money where my mouth was and to preserve the moment. So rather than thinking about, well, what the hell is episode 2 going to be about? I decided to absorb the sights, absorb the sounds, absorb the loving words that I was receiving from all of my family and friends. I was preserving that moment in my brain, and I was not going to lose it under the weight of another goal. So I was not going to create episode 2 immediately after episode 1 because the importance of episode 1 would have been lost. So I decided that I was actually going to sit back and preserve it. But then something else happened, something even more interesting. That's how I spent Friday. When Saturday came along, I couldn't get up in the morning. I just couldn't bring myself to get up. I wanted to do nothing more than sleep. And I realized that I had been on a high all week just trying to produce this. I've been working nonstop, which, by the way, I never knew how absolutely difficult it was to produce a podcast. And I'm sure many of you believe this, I had the belief that all you got to do is point a camera at somebody and press record and you're good to go. Oh my God, I have so much respect for OnlyFans models now. All right. Because I was like, hey, all you got to do is press record and you're good to go. No, there's actual work that is being put into sitting in front of a camera and producing a product that's interesting enough for people to want to tune in each week. So trust me, I am a believer now. But when Saturday came along, I was like, I can't do it. All of the work that it took to do episode 1, the emotional drain that it just took on me to do one episode, I just wasn't ready to jump into episode 2. So I said, you deserve a day, right? And so I took the day off. I actually spent the entire day Saturday playing video games. That's it. Just then Sunday comes along. And Sunday I said to myself, you know what? Maybe it's 2 days that I deserve, right? So let me go ahead and chill out on Sunday. So what did I do? I decided to play video games all Sunday. I decided to not focus on anything. Monday comes around, and you guessed it, the exact same feeling. So now it turned into something different. That sitting back and doing nothing to preserve the importance of the moment had turned into something negative. It turned into a weight that was put on my shoulders, a weight that was so heavy that I could not get up in the morning to produce another episode. It was like the idea of creating episode 2 that has to be better than episode 1 was so overwhelming that I just said, you know what? Would it really be so bad if I just quit right now? And you know what? I'm honest enough to admit that. It didn't stay in my head for a long period of time, but the thought absolutely crossed my mind is like, hey man, you've had this goal for nearly the last 16 years of your life, close to 2 decades. This is something that you've wanted to do. Mission accomplished. Check the box off. Move on to the next greatest and latest thing. And then I remembered something else. One important thing, and this is what I wanted to share. You cannot have growth without growing pains. Now, I mean, everyone gets that, right? However, growing pains comes not just with physical growth. Growing pains come with financial growth, mental growth, spiritual growth, intellectual growth. Pain and resistance are not just a part of growth, they are required for growth. If you are expecting to grow in any way in your life, your pain and your confrontation with resistance is required. So, one of the key things that makes most people successful is that they embrace confrontation. They embrace resistance. They embrace the pain. They lean into their obstacles because they understand that they are a necessary part of their growth, their development, and their success. So let me say that again to you. Resistance and pain are necessary parts of growth and success. And I don't know how many of you are religious, but the Bible is replete with stories of individuals who did not receive their blessings because they simply did not want to overcome the barriers that were in front of them, or endure the necessary pain, or commit the necessary sacrifices in order to receive those blessings. The Bible is also full of individuals who were the recipients of God's blessings because they were able to endure those struggles. They were able to overcome those obstacles. So, why is pain actually a necessary part of growth? Because growth is death. Let me say that again. Growth is death. In order for something to become new, something else has to die. And so that process of killing something in order to create something new is always going to be painful. If you ever want to do anything in your life that is new and different, you have to kill off that part of yourself that is content with doing things same old, same old. So it is really important that you understand that a part of your blessings is pain. Oftentimes, when you want to do something that you know is worthwhile, you'll come across some sort of obstacle. And you'll ask yourself, is this an obstacle that I need to overcome? Or is this an obstacle placed in my path because God is saying, turn the other way? How do you know? How do you know if God is telling you to give up and turn in the other direction, or if God is saying, persist, endure, overcome? Well, it's a real simple litmus test. God is good, and if your endeavors are good, then your endeavors are leading you to God. Really simple. If what it is that you are looking for, the purpose of it is love, if the purpose of what you are doing is to establish goodness in the world, then whenever you experience any sort of obstacle in that journey, then you know that that obstacle is a necessary part of that growth. And on the other side of it is blessings. And that's something that I had to remind myself this Monday is I was like, Kafra, you should be prepared for this. This is something that not only do you preach, but this is also something that you claim to practice as well. That you preach leaning into obstacles. You preach being confrontational in your journey towards goodness and your journey towards God. That's what I preach all the time. And so now I wasn't actually practicing it. I was allowing the resistance, the pressure, the weight of everything that I had done to slow me down and to hold me down. I was so overwhelmed with this idea that I had accomplished my goal. I was so embarrassed by the compliments that I was receiving. Do you know what I actually started doing? I actually started thinking about who didn't follow me, who didn't comment, who didn't like, who didn't subscribe. I was actually going through my list of damn friends and say, this motherfucker didn't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my mind, I saw slowly shifting to the negative. I saw my mind slowly absorbing resistance. And I said, this is a test. This is a test. So I ran my actions through a litmus test. And I said, is what you're trying to do, Kafra, out of love? Absolutely. It is out of my love for my community and the children of my community. Is it good? Yes, it is. Because the purpose of this podcast is to educate individuals on what is needed for the proper development and maturation of young Black men. And if it passes that litmus test that it is loving, if it passes that litmus test that it is good, therefore it is God. And it does not matter what obstacles come my way. I know that on the other side of it is my blessings. And that is the reason why I got up this morning. And that is the reason why I decided that I was going to fight. And that is the reason why I decided that episode 2 is necessary. And so is episode 3 and 4 and 5. And whether you guys like it or not, whether I offend you or not, whether you love me or not, I'm still going to be here. I'm not going anywhere because I know that what I am doing here is loving and is good. So I wanted to share with each and every one of you the journey that I had gone through just over the last 3 days and just with the first episode, right? And then more importantly, I wanted to also kind of share a lesson that I've always lived by, and that is pain and resistance are a necessary part of growth. As a matter of fact, speaking biblically, almost all religions of the world have some sort of idea that pain and resistance are necessary for blessings. In Christianity, that pain and that resistance is personified in the form of Satan. Amongst the Muslims, Islam, it is Shaitan. The Buddhists, it is Mara. The ancient Egyptians, it is Seth. For the Norse, it is Loki. For the Yoruba, my own personal religion, it is Elegba. There are entities. The moment that you say that you are worthy of the blessings of God, there are entities whose sole purpose is to lay down resistance and to provide pain, to test you, to see if you are really serious about what it is that you want. Because only the devoted and only the faithful are worthy of God's blessings. And the only way that you can prove to God that you are worthy and that you are faithful and devoted is if you overcome the obstacles that he places in front of you. So I wanted to make sure that that message got across, because it was just like an aha moment for me while I was just sitting in my drawers on Sunday, deciding that I didn't want to get up and go anywhere, right? So that was one of the things that I observed over this last weekend as a result of the launch. There's a couple of other observations that I made. Second observation. This is a weekly podcast. That means each year I'm going to be putting together 52 episodes a year. I don't have 52 fucking outfits. So it just dawned upon me, like, what am I going to do about my gear? Here's the bottom line. I ain't got enough fits. So you're going to see a repeat of some gear, and that's okay. Pay attention to the message and not necessarily the gear of the messenger, but I'll do my best to look presentable. The last observation that I made was this, and that is, I need to be clear about who Notes to the Sun is for. And the reason why is because I can use some rather explicit language during this podcast. And so the assumption is like, oh, I thought that this was for young Black boys. Well, a couple of things I want to share with you. My youngest son is 14 years of age, and I cuss in front of him. I don't cuss at him, but I definitely cuss in front of him. I am a cusser. Anybody who knows me, they know this. And they also know that I'm quite capable of articulating myself very well. So Cussing is not a substitute for the English language for me. It is actually a second language for me. So I cuss, but notes to the sun, you know what? It actually might give you the impression that this is actually for young men, when in fact, not necessarily. Notes to the sun is for anyone who has made it a life choice to be responsible and accountable for the maturation and development of a young Black male. So what does that mean? That means Notes to the Sun is not just for Black fathers. It is not just for Black males. It's for anyone whose life choices have led them to become responsible or accountable for the maturation and development of a young Black male. That means mothers, that means aunts, that means uncles and cousins and friends and brothers and sisters. It means educators and instructors. It means coaches and mentors. So there is no specific audience in terms of no specific demographic that I am reaching out to other than those who have a stake in the development of young Black men. So this isn't for Black people. This isn't for Black men. This is for anyone who has an interest or an investment in the development of Black men. More importantly, people who are also dedicated to countering the negative things that are impacting the lives of young African American males. So that's what Notes to the Sun is for. It is for a mature audience, although I will be sharing information that you might find useful enough to share with individuals who may actually be younger than a teenage Black male. But for the most part, it's intended for a mature audience. So with that said, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and tune in to next week's episode 2 of Notes to the Sun. I'm your host, KGB. Thank you for joining us. Take care. Feel good, feel good, feel good.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Notes to the Sun. Our show is a production of Sunshine Media, LLC, with all rights reserved. The podcast and its contents are protected under U.S. and international copyright law.